The thing that surprised me the most, and I didn't see it coming, 1 Point Health, a big allied health company in Sydney. They do all sorts of allied health stuff, podiatry, physio. Every year they run an event called Boys Night In. And they said, hey, we want you to come down, speak at this event. There was another bloke there that you might have put on the spot a little bit.
John.
You know, he's not a well-known BA character or anything like that, but he came along to that event. Tell us what happened.
I just looked out at the crowd and I went,
welcome to the Better Bloke Podcast. I'm Matty.
I'm Rob.
And we're just a pair of average blokes on a mission to try and be a little bit less average.
We're going to speak about all things highs and lows of what it feels like to be a bloke, plus speak to some legends along the way about what it takes to be a better bloke. Let's get stuck in.
It's been 3 months of the Better Bloke Project, and we've done all sorts of events. We've done an awful lot of podcasts already. We're finding our feet as being charity people, I guess, which is kind of wild.
In finding our feet is a little bit far for me, I still think. We're tripping with success, I think is a good way to put it.
The ball is rolling though.
It's definitely rolling, and it's snowballing, I would almost say. So
yeah.
There's been a lot of little successes lately. Do you want to talk? Or actually, before we talk on that, how are you finding it?
How am I finding it?
Yeah.
I think expectation on what was going to happen was hard. And we spoke about that in the very first episode. Obviously, we have blokes advice.
Yep.
So we knew we weren't going in cold to this. There's a really big audience, and we know they care about this kind of stuff we're doing with the men's health. They care about community. They care about pretty much everything that the Better Bloke Project was going to embody. But it's a new thing. It's an awful lot of people to try and educate on what this new thing is, and it's different. So there was, I guess, hesitation and a lack of expectation.
That's probably a good way to put it.
Yeah, I didn't want to be like, oh, great, we're going to have 100,000 followers in a month, because it's so different. That wasn't going to happen. So I guess I tried to tame my expectations of what was going to happen, and seeing the organic sort of growth and the translation of the Blokes Advice people into, you know, followers and people engaging with Better Bloke has probably been better than I thought. Like, it's not blowing up. It's not the biggest thing in the world, but it's consistent, and there's enough people understanding the mission of what we're trying to achieve, and that feels good to see.
Yeah, it feels really good. And I think what I sort of went into it with is exactly like you. So we both really spoke about this in depth a lot before doing it, as you do when you're planning, that we weren't even sure with expectations as to what we sort of wanted a slow progression through this so we could find our feet, you know, build it as we were going, because it is such a new space for us. But it's the amount of support that we've had sort of exceeding my expectation, which makes me happy that we are on the right track. But I don't know, it's just it's a funny thing to be fumbling our way through. I won't say fumbling, because we are doing very well, and I would say we're almost educated in this space now.
I think we are educated.
Yeah.
We've come off the back of 8 years of doing bloke stuff. We know the space. Like, we're not experts in the sense of being a psychologist or being a, you know, professional, whatever. But 8 years is more than a bachelor's degree.
Would you say we're blokologists?
Blokologists, yeah. Title of the episode.
Blokologists, there you go.
That could come up on some of those dodgy websites.
I mean, yeah, look, local blokes in your area might be using that, but that's fine.
Blokes Advice on Google actually ranks for blokes on blokes.
Does it?
Yeah, so if you Google blokes on blokes, we will be in those.
Yeah, okay.
And they're going to get a shock, because it's not what they're looking for.
I mean, it might be.
Could be. The thing that's probably surprised me the most, and I didn't see it coming, was the outreach from some people. Not a lot, but people I didn't expect. So we're putting out our story, our mission. The podcast is the main way of getting that out, and we're, you know, sharing stuff into Blokes Advice. We're doing the stories that are coming out of Blokes Helping Blokes. But then there's been a few random people that have reached out and said, hey, we're doing this thing, or we want to get you involved in this. We love what you're doing, and, you know, we'd love to somehow get you and the community involved. And every time that happens, like, had a phone call with a girl this week, say girl, like, she's in her 50s, she's been through a hell of a lot of stuff herself. She's involved with some motorcycle groups, and I don't know, I mean, they do charity stuff, they do rides, they do community get-togethers. She's like, how can we get you involved? They're over in Perth or Rockingham. I'm like, how did someone like that get to us so quickly? And I think that's a bit that's most exciting for me because we haven't really put the gas down.
No, I think we're still just warming up. Like we haven't actually knocked it into gear yet, and it's already reaching these people. And that demographic there is exactly. I think we spoke about it early on in the piece. That's who we want to reach. They're these groups of people that I guess most people looking from the outside in would go, oh, we're not going to worry about them having to talk, or everyone goes through shit, man. So it's unreal that we're reaching sort of, I don't know, like motorcycle clubs. Like, if they want to reach out to us and go, hey, we're going to do this, we want to support what you're doing, they're obviously open to talking about shit and they've been through some shit. That's essentially hitting the nail on the head with who we're trying to target, and it's working. So I'm stoked that we're hitting those people. It's unreal.
It's so sick, man. So obviously we've had that. We've had country pubs. Speaking to a guy that does like a putting green competition every year on his lawn. Like there's so many cool people doing cool things because they care. They understand everyone goes through a shit time. Like we're all trying to live a good life, but there is cancer, there is divorce, there is family problems, there is losing your job. There's so many monumental things that can just shake your world and turn it upside down. And
well, the economy's fucked, so that's sort of shaking everyone at the moment. So.
Yeah. So, we're all doing it tough, but we're doing it tough together. And enough people are in that boat where they're trying to band together to do it. And one of the people that reached out was 1 Point Health.
Yep.
So a big allied health company in Sydney. They do pretty much all sorts of allied health stuff, podiatry, physio, all that stuff. And every year they run an event called Boys Night In, which is essentially a get-together of boys to talk about man stuff. They do a female one as well. It's all around breast cancer and that sort of stuff. And, they found us and they said, hey, we want you to come down and speak at this event. Keynote speakers, which we are not.
No. Well, I mean, we were.
We were not, and now we are, apparently. Yeah. How did that feel to happen so quickly, to be like, all right, we're flying interstate, we're talking on men's health, something that you probably don't call yourself an expert in, even though I kind of do?
Definitely not. So I definitely do not call myself an expert in that space. And we'll sort of talk about how we feel it went, because we spoke about it, and I feel like we work together very well. You obviously are a very good speaker in that setting. I'm very good at engaging people. So I think between the both of us, we did very, very well.
Yeah. I think the playoff was good.
Yes.
Like you said, your crowd work was awesome, and we got a lot of, like, the company itself was like, that was sick. We've never seen that in all these years. The crowds never got so involved, and that really open up connection between them. But yeah, I talked my shit on some of my topics that I go off on, and you chimed in with your points on that. We did well, so we didn't fuck it up as far as.
No. We crushed it, I think.
Yeah, well, everyone was happy and it was really good. Obviously, as we do this more, we'll get better and better. But the response that we got from the boys was almost unexpected, because you imagine we do everything online. Like, we do podcasts, we talk to guys in the inbox, we post on our social media pages. But to have this face-to-face, like, I remember there was one guy and I was just looking at him the whole time. He was getting teary-eyed and I'm talking on my stuff. And I'm like, oh, this hits different. And then them coming up afterwards and they wanted to go deeper in some conversations.
That was what I loved. Like, that, speaking with the boys in person and actually, I don't know, you get to have yarns face to face. That definitely hits different. Sitting up in front of people, speaking to a room full of boys, that's going to take some getting used to. Like, I'm not a bad speaker. But I don't know, I definitely, the boys that spoke before us, some very, very impressive men. Very impressive men with impressive stories. And then we got up. and I somewhat felt like an imposter. I know what we're doing is unreal, but like I haven't done shit. So like, what do we? I don't know. How did you feel getting up there?
I think it's natural to have that imposter syndrome to a degree. I pretty much am very aware of what we're doing here. And I knew like who was going to be speaking. Like there's lawyers, there's psychologists. There was this one bloke who is like the performance coach for the All Blacks, like been doing it for 40 years, resume on him like you wouldn't believe, won the New Zealand Bravery Medal of Honor. Like this dude had a resume and he spoke well. His whole thing is getting in front of the toughest men on the planet and putting them in the right mindset. I saw him, I'm like, oh shit, like this is going to be tough. But then I reflected on, okay, what are we doing here? Because while you and I may not have a personal list of achievements and goals that can compete with 40 years of being at the top of a certain industry, what we're doing is it has merit. Blokes Advice itself, running that's it's a big thing. And we saw that in the Q&A after. We can get into that. But I think we need to take some pride and acknowledge what we have done to feel more comfortable in those settings.
Which we definitely have done some unreal things. There's no denying that. And what we're doing now, I feel like we're trying to build something that many people are going to look back on and go, shit, that's impressive. Like, you know, these boys did that. But to have such an experience so early on made me just go, oh, shit, this is cool. But not so much are we ready, because we obviously were ready. We spoke about it a lot and we know what our delivery is. We know how to talk to people. We know how to do all that. But I think, yeah, just hearing everyone else's stories, that made me go like, oh, should we be standing up here talking with this? And I think the engagement that we had afterwards sort of made me feel better, going, okay, shit, like these boys in this room have just listened to us do this, and everyone got up and, you know, they were getting engaged afterwards and doing their thing. That made me sort of, I don't know, wind it back and go, yeah, okay, we're on the right track here.
Yeah, we're supposed to be here. Yeah. And that was something that I got from the event, because like we don't get a lot of acknowledgement for it, really. Like we sort of put out our clips and, you know, there'll be some comments on whatever we're talking about, but no one's telling you, hey, what you're doing is good. Like not that often anyway.
No.
So it was good to have that and be like, okay, shit, I think we're on the right track here, but it's just going to snowball and get bigger and bigger. And we just got to stand strong in that we do have authority, because we have been doing this for so long, and that we're doing the right thing. Like this is coming from a good place. Like what we're doing is having more of a positive impact than anything else that we've done. Yeah. And I fucking love that.
Yeah. I feel like it's sort of, well, you and I spoke about it afterwards, and the amount of purpose that it gives, well, I know both of us, but like myself particularly, because I can feel it. It's this driving force that makes all the extra hours of everything that we're doing so much worth it. But I don't know. There's something else there that I don't know. You don't really do this for, you know, no one giving you merit behind this, or, you know, like, oh, you're doing a great job, boys. It's something in here that, I don't know, it just keeps you going forward, even without getting that.
Yeah. I can't speak for you, but for myself, a large driving factor of why I'm doing this is the responsibility on my shoulders from having Blokes Advice, having so many men needing something. And this came up in the Q&A. After we spoke, we got all these questions on, oh, you know, you have all these people, why don't you do it this way? Or why can't you do this? And why can't you do this? And they were genuinely like, you have such a good thing going. How can you do it better? And I'm like, that's what Better Bloke is. I'm trying. Like, we're just a couple guys behind computer screens at the moment. Like, it's not like we can suddenly have a multi-million-dollar lifeline hotline like that.
No, and that's the big thing is that like we don't have an endless supply of money to be able to go bang, bang, bang. Let's go do this now. Let's go do this now. Like we're just a couple of guys trying to make a change, and I feel like there's I don't want to say pressure, but sort of is pressure. Or maybe not pressure, an expectation may be the right word.
I was going to correct you and say expectations.
Yeah, which I think we are slowly building to it. But the thing is, we can't build too quickly or else like what we can do quickly becomes too much. And that was something we spoke about earlier on. We don't want that at all. We want to be able to go in 100% and do as much as we can in our own capacity. But yeah, they hit you pretty front on when you're getting hit with those questions.
Yeah, and it's hard for them because they don't quite gauge where we're at. And I think like we can just be honest about sort of where we're at, is that this whole situation is pretty much funded from us or from BA, but like people might have the wrong idea about how much money's coming in there. Like they
Like
think
there's not. There's not.
They think it's this crazy thing, but it's literally like a dude packing in a garage.
Yeah.
And then we joked the other day on the finance episode about like we're good for donations, but we haven't asked for any donations. No. We really want to get this thing like up and running and show you what we're capable of doing before going out to the boys or to whoever it is. Lucky 1 Point Health did chip in. We've obviously just done the tinny giveaway as well, which got a little bit more in. And a pub down in South Australia was nice enough to help us out with the little raffle thing they did. And really those funds, all it's being spent on is getting you and I to an event. Like there's no wages, there's no nothing like that.
Barbecues, like all that, where I think that's the biggest thing where when you're putting on barbecues and, you know, creating a space for boys to talk and, you know, like bring their families along, because obviously we want this to be like a full family situation with Better Bloke, because, you know, part of being a better bloke is involving everyone around you that loves you. Like shit costs money, man. So like when you're buying a bunch of snags and some, you know, soft drinks and water for the boys, it adds up quick.
Yeah.
So I think it's good that, you know, we've got like all those guys that you mentioned jumping on early, and we haven't asked just yet, but like there's only so much we can do when, you know, we're funding it ourselves along with some help from some unreal communities.
Yeah. So we're working our ass off on it, but between these events that have already happened, and you would have seen them all on the socials, there's going to be a shitload more. Like the next 6 months, we really are going to put the gas down. And at some point, like we're going to need to raise a bit of funds to do it. But at this stage, man, we're just grinding. And I think that's the way to do it. Like I want people to see like we're in it for the right reasons and we're doing the right stuff. So
which is it, and it's sort of, I don't know if it's too early to talk on this or not, but like we've had a few guys reach out to us saying, hey, you know, like we want to donate. We've tried donating money to, you know, like all these other mobs, and they're getting turned away from it.
Yeah, that's wild.
And these are big mobs that like they're doing unreal shit, but they're turning away donations. Like, fuck, come on. I'm definitely not going to do that. We've seen how much stuff costs and how much we can do small in the community and essentially build the community. Like
this happened a few years ago with Blokes Advice, because we raised a bunch of money and tried to give over $20,000 or $25,000 to one of the big charities.
Yep.
And won't say who they are, but they said, we're not taking it. We can't do the affiliation with you. So they're saying no to $20,000. Like that should keep us going 6 months.
That's a big donation. So yeah, it blows my mind. And back then I was like, oh, when they did that, I was a little bit filthy because everyone still speaks about these guys. And I don't know, it sort of it puts it into perspective that how big they may be. And like, obviously they're doing great things. There's no denying the good shit that a lot of these other people are doing. But to be turning away donations, just I don't know how the fuck they're doing it.
Yeah, it's strange.
Especially when someone's gone out of their way to raise those funds. Like, it's not an easy feat raising funds, and usually it comes with people doing some incredible shit to do that. To then be told, no, we don't want it. Like, fuck, that's a kick in the guts.
Yeah. That's probably enough donation chat. I just wanted to go over that because after those guys asking those questions, if anyone's thinking like, oh, why aren't you doing more? Like, we just got jobs. Like, there's so much to it. It's a building process, but we're trying our fucking hardest to get this thing going, and we will get it moving in the next couple months.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah. All right. What else? So other events we got on. So you mentioned the barbecue thing already.
Yep.
So that's happening in a couple days' time. By the time this comes out, it will have already happened.
Yes.
We ran our first mental health event maybe 2 months ago now, and it was a pretty heavy one. It was on mental health pathways. We got a psychologist in, and it was a heavy time, to be honest. It was cool. It was powerful for the boys that came, but it wasn't appealing to everyone. So we're going on the other side of the spectrum and going off the Sydney event. We want to get people off the screens to meet in real life. Maybe you meet some new mates. Maybe you have some chats you wouldn't have had. That's the goal of this event, which was your brainchild.
Look, I won't take all the credit for that.
You can.
I can, but this was definitely something that, like, the missus brought this to me with, like, you know, getting the family involved in that, where usually I would have just been like, oh, let's just get a bunch of boys together. We'll have a barbecue. We'll kick the footy around. And then the missus and I were talking about it, and she was like, oh, look, why don't you make it a family event? Like, you know, it's a weekend. Guys have been at work all week. Maybe they don't want to be away from their kids and all that. And I went, fuck, yeah, that's a great idea. So hence the family-friendly event. And like we've said so many times, like, we're not against women getting around us. Like, the more women that get around us, the more partners, the more wives, all that, like, it only helps our message go along that much further. So family event, get some boys together, get some kids together, get the missus talking, do all that, and creating a community out in the real world. It's crazy.
It's going to be sick. And stay tuned to the Facebook page. That's where all the events go up, and also on the email list, because by the time this comes out, the next ones will be up. And every time we do it, we get messages saying, oh, I wish I knew about this, or when are you doing one in Sydney or Melbourne or Adelaide, whatever. So we're coming. We're coming. That's all I can say.
We don't know when, but we're coming.
Stay tuned to the pages, and we'll do our best to make sure everyone finds out beforehand. Yeah. All right. What else can we talk about?
I want to jump back to 1 Point Health and just speak about that night where a friend of the show and a friend of Blokes Advice got a speaking gig there. Mr. Dane, he was on a couple of weeks ago, and that was his first time, other than sitting down with us having a chat, that he got up in front of a crowded room full of people and had the opportunity to tell his story.
Yeah, so Dane came on a few weeks ago. He's a guy that lost 154 kilos, massive player in the BA scene. Like, he puts up his progression shots. Everyone knows him. Hugely inspirational character.
And watching him inspire a room full of boys in person, something special. Like, that was something else. And speaking to him beforehand, like, he was nervous as shit, which, I mean, everyone, when you're getting up for the first time speaking, I mean, you can get up 1,000 times and still be nervous, which is good because it means that, you know, it means something to you if you're feeling nerves. The second you're not feeling nerves, you're like, you're just going through the motions. But he got up, and I thought we were at a Magic Mike gig because he ripped his shirt off, and it was fucking spectacular.
And he didn't know he was going to do that either.
No.
So that wasn't in the plan. I think his missus was up the back of the room going like, holy shit. And I had a little bit of a tear because I'm like, this man has come from having no self-esteem, no self-worth, to building himself up into like such a fucking inspirational character, to the point where he's in front of 100 people in a room and he ripped his shirt off and hit bodybuilding poses.
Yeah.
I'm like, you weapon.
Yeah, it was magic. And like, I just want to give a big shout out to Dane and look right down the barrel of the camera and say, I am fucking proud of you. Because that took some major balls from him to do that. And just to be along with him this journey. And I mean, we're the Better Bloke Project. He is embodying every single fucking thing of the Better Bloke Project. And I know it's so good to sort of be able to help him, I don't know, get his message out to the world, which obviously we're doing, which makes me feel like, fuck yeah, like we're doing some cool shit too. So yeah, I just wanted to give Dane a big special shout out.
Shout outs Dane. He's almost a bit of a poster boy for BA and BB. So
Yeah,
that's good. There was another bloke there that you might have put on the spot a little bit.
John.
He's not, he's not a well-known BA character or anything like that, but he came along to that event and you tell us what happened.
So, well, we got there and then obviously John came up to us and he said, g'day, and we met him, had a bit of a chat, and like unreal bloke, like such a nice bloke. And obviously everyone spoke before us, and this sort of goes back to that bit of imposter syndrome that I was definitely feeling up there. Listening to all these guys tell their stories that like they've just done these magnificent things. And I think I sort of hit you a bit randomly with it because I don't think it wasn't something that we discussed, but I went, fuck it, I'm going to go out on a limb here. And I just looked out at the crowd and I went, we've heard some good stories. Everyone up here's done some cool shit. I didn't want everyone else in the crowd to feel like they didn't have a story to tell, so I just put it out to them. I went, who out in the crowd has a story to tell? And it was crickets for a little bit.
There was. I'm like, Rob, you flopped here.
Yep. And then our mate put his hand up and he stood up in front of a room of 100 people and told his story. And it was fucking incredible. Like, it was powerful. It was so powerful. And I don't know, it hit different with, like, obviously everyone's standing at the front of the room doing their thing, talking. It's sort of, you expect that. But when someone from the crowd gets up and tells their story, like, it hit different. And I just want to give him a big shout out and say, again, how fucking proud I am and, like, the courage that it took to do that. That's special.
Yeah, we won't repeat what he said because obviously
closed doors.
It was in that space.
Yep.
But it was some heavy stuff, and there was a lot of bravery in him getting up to do that on the spot. And every single person in that room knew, right? And it changed the tone of how the crowd was interacting with each other because they saw him take that little leap of faith, man up, grow a set, whatever you want to call it. He put himself out there. He had a moment of vulnerability and it was non-judgy. It was anything. People were holding him in high regard for doing so.
See, vulnerability, it's still such a yuck word.
There's power in vulnerability. Like, it's one of the words that might have a stigma against it. Vulnerability doesn't mean that you're weak.
No, I don't think it means you're weak. It's just, I don't know.
You're still dealing with toxic masculinity and Australian bloke culture.
Oh, let's not even get started on that.
Maybe we should. We got like a couple minutes left.
Nah, look, we've had a great chat so far. Let's not get cancelled with how the climate is at the moment in the Australian media.
I think that's a deflection.
No deflection. I just don't like the word vulnerability. It's as simple as that.
But okay, so pretty much, yeah, his vulnerability was inspiring.
His ability to be courageous and stand up and speak was inspiring.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Same thing. We just said it differently.
And on that note, I think we can sign this one out. So all these events, they're going to be on our Facebook page and they're going to go out by the email newsletter. So don't miss any of the events we're doing. Make sure you're signed up and you're checking that page, checking the stories. That's how you're going to find out about them. We don't want to hear from anyone that you missed out because you didn't know about it. We're trying our best to let everyone know.
And with the events that we are posting, when we share them, hit interested so you're up to date. But if you're definitely attending, please click going because it makes it very, very hard with numbers if we don't have the exact
Yeah, the Brisbane event we're about to do, I think there's 20 people say they're going, but there's like 300 people that says they're interested, and we need to buy snags. So we're going to buy 150 of them. And
well, luckily it's local. There's a couple of good local boys that, you know, we've clued up, and we're like, hey, we may need to run back down if need be. So we've got our bases covered there, but obviously once we start doing interstate stuff, we're not going to have the networks that we have outside of our local area. We're going to need to get some more specific numbers. And obviously, like we said, we're still learning all this. This is a not as new space for us now, but it is somewhat new. So yeah, definitely get around the socials, Facebook, Instagram, sign up to the newsletter. That's probably the best way to do it, actually, because that way then they're hearing every bit of news.
Yep. We'll be back next week with guests for the next couple of them. So the guest thing's been cool as well. And we'll see you next time. And on that note,
as always, be better. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Better Bloke. If you got anything out of it, show some love by dropping a 5-star review below.
if you want to learn more about everything we're doing, head to the description, hit the links, and follow us on the socials. If you want to learn more about the project, head to betterblokeproject.org.